Our team members take pride in our roots. We grew up on farms, we live on farms, and we serve farms every day. At Armor Animal Health, our veterinarians help you detect diseases through our state-of-the-art lab. Our pharmacy then helps deliver the right solutions to keep your herd healthy. With locations across the United States, we have the ability to supply thousands of products to your door. When you kick off your boots at night, know that defending your herd isn't our job, but a way of life.
And go ahead.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us this week on Have You Heard? Armor Animal Health's video series. This week, we're going to be talking about autogenous vaccines and how they may benefit your farm. My name's Kate, and I recently joined the Armor Animal Health team as a customer service rep. I grew up in York, Pennsylvania, and attended YTI, where I obtained my Associate's of Specialized Science degree in veterinary technology. Growing up, I had always had an interest in animals and science. After graduating, I worked as a tech at a large animal vet clinic, haul-in and mobile, for about 4.5 years, where I was able to work with all species of livestock. I also do have a background in sales and customer service, so it's unique that I get to use all my experiences wrapped up in one here at Armor. Along with me today, we have two of our members of our veterinary specialist team. We have Leslie Gravatt, Armor's veterinary relations specialist, as well as Dr. Armon Hetzel, one of our veterinarians. Dr. Armon, why don't you take a second and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Armon Hetzel. I live up north between Eau Claire and Minneapolis-St. Paul. I practiced there for 33 years, graduated from Kansas State in 1978. I've worked for Armor Animal for since 2011. My areas that I cover are Wisconsin, of course, northern from La Crosse up to Ashland, over to Wittenberg, Burnham Wood, and Upper Peninsula, Michigan, Minnesota, and South Dakota. Take it away, Leslie.
So, hi, thanks for joining us today. My name is Leslie. I've been with Armor Animal Health for just over 9 years now. I was originally from Minnesota, where I've always had an interest in animals and ag. When I was younger, I spent many weekends on my cousin's cow-calf operation, as well as competing in dog sports. I did go to the University of Minnesota and received an animal science degree in animal production systems. Currently live in Waterloo, Wisconsin, which is just about 30 minutes northeast of Madison. We have a small hobby farm that we share with our dogs and cats. Presently, I do compete many weekends a month in flyball, disc, lure coursing, and herding with the dogs. For Armor, I am the veterinary relations manager working with diagnostics, milk quality to support veterinarians, sales, and producers. Back to you, Katelyn.
All right, thanks. Okay, before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that if you have any questions throughout today's presentation, go ahead and type them in the comments, and we will be sure to get those all answered at the end of the presentation. We'll actually be giving out an Armor Animal Health sweatshirt to the best question, so ask away. If you're watching the recorded version, you're still welcome to post any questions, and we will get back to them. So does anyone watching today know what an autogenous vaccine is? Okay, well, don't worry if you don't, because Dr. Armon is going to go over everything you need to know and tell you how they can help benefit your farm. So Dr. Armon, could you first tell us what exactly an autogenous vaccine is?
The autogenous vaccine is basically a custom-made vaccine for a particular pathogen, whether that pathogen is pink eye, whether it is enteric or scours or pneumonia. And basically we take the bug that is infecting your herd and we make it into a vaccine.
Okay, when do we use autogenous vaccines?
The biggest thing is when you use an autogenous vaccine, and why we use autogenous vaccines is there may be a failure of a commercial vaccine. So you may have a specific type of pneumonia that a vaccine isn't made. So it's something that is just an extra tool in our toolbox that we can use to combat something that we don't have a commercial vaccine for.
Okay, just want to remind you guys, we will be having a question and answer session after, so please send us your questions as they arise throughout the presentation, and then we'll get them answered at the end. Okay, Dr. Armon, how do we get an autogenous vaccine?
Well, first of all, it requires a call from our client. Usually to determine whether we need one or whether we have vaccine failure or we're just not using the proper vaccine, we go through a history, an extensive history of their vaccination program, of what they're seeing, when they're seeing it, and what is the incidence in the herd. So, is it only affecting 2% of the animals? Is it affecting 15% of the animals? These are all things that determine whether we're using an autogenous vaccine or making an autogenous vaccine. Then after we get our history done, then we would take cultures or samples. These could be eye cultures if we're dealing with pink eye. It could be nasal swabs if we're dealing with pneumonia, or it could be postmortem samples if we're dealing with enteric diseases, scours, this type of thing. Once we have those, we send them off to Newport Labs. It's a federally approved lab for send the isolates off for sequencing. So we actually need to know how this, not only what the bug is, but how far down it goes and how is it different from what is commercially available. Once that's done, and the client chooses to make a vaccine, we will go ahead and create it.
Okay, thank you. All right, what vaccines are currently available at Armor?
Well, we started this probably about 4 to 5 years ago. We started with the pink eye vaccine. We were noticing that we were getting non-responsive pink eye in animals. So we did eye cultures and found out that we were dealing with a totally different type of bacterial pink eye. Is Moraxella bovaculi, which is a goat sheep pink eye. There was a commercial product on the market that we had used. We weren't getting the results that we wanted. So we went out, all of the veterinarians from Mart submitted samples and they were sequenced, and we started with that one. Now we just don't stop after we make one. So in the years after that, we kept taking cultures and we kept changing our vaccine according to what we were seeing. For instance, the second and third year, we were seeing some vaccine failures on our pink eye vaccine. We did recultures and found out there was also what was called Mycoplasma bovaculi, which is, again, a sheep and goat mycoplasma pink eye. We added that to our vaccine. We got tremendous response from it. Last year, we did the same thing and found out there was another mycoplasma that we were culturing out of the eyes, and that was a Mycoplasma argenii. So we added that to our vaccine. And so these things are constantly changing depending on what we're seeing. We also have a pneumonia vaccine, which has a Pasteurella babensia, Mycoplasma, and Histophilus. Mycoplasma is a ever-changing organism and has to be continually monitored and sequenced in order for it to have a good effect. Because it had a good effect last year doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have a good effect this year. So we're out there looking to see how close the current mycoplasmas are to what we have in our vaccines. So we're constantly looking at it. The last one we just offered or just made was a Scours vaccine for salmonella. As some of our producers are aware, getting a salmonella vaccine is getting more and more difficult to get. It's on back order, they have to wait, and anyone who has gone through a salmonella outbreak knows that time is of the essence. So in our Scours vaccine, or our salmonella vaccine, we have Salmonella typhimurium, Salmonella Dublin, Salmonella sero, and Salmonella Heidelberg. These were the four most common salmonellas that we had cultured throughout last summer and the summer before. So putting these vaccines together gives us the opportunity to have the only vaccine on the market that will cover two different types, two serotypes of Dublin and typhimurium, sero, and Heidelberg. Now, in that, there was some variation between samples, so we actually have 10 different variations of this vaccine, which really covers a huge area in what we want to do and how we want to treat these calves.
So how do I go about getting the vaccine if I'm interested in it?
Well, we start off, usually starts off with a phone call, and usually that leads to us either going out and culturing the animals and then sending it into sequence to see how close it is to the current vaccine that we have. Okay. That basically tells us, okay, you have this type of bacteria or pathogen, and it is or it is not close to the vaccine that we have. Okay. The advantages of our vaccine is that when you go out and you culture and you create an autogenous vaccine, the lab requires you to buy over 2,000 doses of that vaccine right off the bat. And that is a specific vaccine for your herd and your cattle. And that's easily done. Many people don't want 2,000 doses sitting in their refrigerator. So what we have done is we have gone through our state with the state veterinarian so if you have a farm that is close, we can actually use that same vaccine, even though it came from a specific farm, on your herd. I recommend sequencing it to see how close it is. But if you have a 50 cow herd, you don't want to go through all that. I just say, you know what, we can approve it. You can use it. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, this is what we have to do. We have to culture and sequence and then create a vaccine for you. You must have a valid VCPR with one of our vets in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and North Dakota. That is a must. You cannot, it's a script product. The state veterinarian has to approve it, which usually takes around 10 days from the time we submit the paperwork until the time we get the approval. Now, one thing people must know is that you cannot get our vaccine unless your premise ID and registration is current. Your premise ID is due every 3 years and usually is done through the regulatory department of the state. So making sure that your premise ID is up to date, that will be one thing that will slow the process down if that is not current. Once we're approved, then you have the ability to order our vaccine and start vaccinating your animals. We've had a tremendous amount of success with this vaccines. Trying to cover things that aren't commercially available. So.
Okay, that was a lot of good information, Dr. Armon. We do have some questions that came in, so let's take a look at those. So looks like we had one come over. How are these vaccines as safe as commercial vaccines? What type of research or regulations are applied to these custom-made vaccines?
Newport Labs is an accredited laboratory. In order to make these, you have to be an accredited laboratory to make these in order for us to sell them. Now, there's a lot of other things out there I probably wouldn't recommend that people are doing, but Newport Labs is an accredited veterinary laboratory and they've been making vaccines for years. Quite frankly, the three pathogens, Salmonella is highly for an adverse reaction. Okay, so Pastorella is the other product. The Pastorella is highly, you can get vaccine reactions from them. We have not seen or heard from our clients of huge reactions to these vaccines. The pathogen themselves, I know from giving just simple SRP Newport, you know, I always tell people to have their bottle of epinephrine with them because they will react. They'll get an allergic reaction to it, as they do with Pastorella. But to be quite honest with you, we have not seen as much of that with our vaccine. And again, it is a quality vaccine. The research is ongoing on every farm that we put in. So we monitor it. We constantly check back with the people to say, hey, did that pink eye vaccine work for you? If not, here's our options.
Okay, there's another question that came in from Lori. What kind of timeline do you usually see from collection of cultures to having a vaccine in hand for the producer?
So by vaccines and cultures and sequencing, that usually takes anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks after the samples are submitted. If the vaccine is to be made, it will take up to 3 to 4 months to get the vaccine produced. Now, if you want to try our vaccine without the sequencing, we can get the vaccine by submitting the forms to the state veterinarian, getting them approved within 10 days, and have it in your barn probably within 2 weeks. But it is not the same pathogen that may be or may not be on your farm. We can only determine that with sequencing. So if we really want to narrow it down and see if that vaccine is what we really want, we're going to have to wait the time. So many of our clients will try the vaccine because they can only, you know, they can order 50 doses. They don't have to order 2,000. And we've sold probably tens of thousands of these vaccines. And the reason we're expanding it is because it's working so well.
So how long would you say it takes start to finish? Joel was asking.
About 4 to 5 months.
Okay. All right. So this one came in from a viewer, Pam. What is recommended to use while I'm waiting for the vaccine?
If you're waiting for the autogenous vaccine to your farm, okay, again, our commercial products, most of these vaccines do not have commercial products. That's why we are trying to get our vaccine that we've made with cultures that we've done. So the shortest period of time that we can get it to them is within 10 days. If they want it sequenced out, and what do they use in the meantime? The reason they're using an autogenous vaccine from us is because what they're doing isn't working. And believe me, they've probably tried several different, including a commercial pink eye vaccine, or the availability of, say, our salmonellas are on hold. So, you know, we do have the vaccine. It's available. There are other products out there. They may or may not work as well. So again, that's why we're trying to streamline this procedure in order to get the product on the farm as fast as we can.
Okay. All right. There's another question here. Is it a real long process to get approval? Is it a big application?
No, we do all of that for you. So if I am going to set you up through the state veterinarian, basically what I do is I give your name to Leslie, and Leslie gets the paperwork done. I sign it. We send it off to the veterinarian, state veterinarian. They look at it, sign it, send it back. You're ready to go.
Okay. Looks like that's about all the questions that have come in. So we'll share some closing remarks and any final tips that Dr. Armon and Leslie have.
Well, as I said, I think, we're expanding our autogenous vaccines here at Armor for the reason that when we started, we weren't really sure how they were going to work. They've turned out we selected a lab that was reputable to make these vaccines for us. They've been in business a long time. And we just, we thought, okay, we don't have a good bovaculi, pink eye, moraxella bovaculi vaccine. Let's make one. We all do. We're all out there all the time collecting samples. Our state labs, when we send these samples in, they give us the results, but they also save the samples. We request they save the samples. So if we need to send them to Newport, we can take them from the state lab, send them to Newport. They can sequence them and see how close they are to the current vaccines that we're making. If we need to make a new one, we do it. So there's something next year that we're not seeing this year. We'll put it into production. You have anything, Leslie, on any of the stuff that you do as far as making this process? We've made it streamlined, but if you want a specific vaccine to your specific pathogen, it's going to take a while to make.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Armon. I did have just a couple things. I guess, first off, Newport does follow the inactivated veterinary biologics requirements from the USDA. So they do testing on the vaccines before they're released. This testing is done on every batch of vaccine that is created, and then the results are sent to the USDA for them to review and to approve. So back to the question is if it's safe, the product is tested, and they aren't just making it out of their bathtub, and it's a USDA regulated product. Also available in a Bio 1 version where does not require a booster. So for those herds that have a hard time catching heifers, calves a second time, having that only one dose could be pretty valuable on time savings and on your pocketbook then. We do have a couple different materials for for pink eye vaccine, some technical bulletins that we have written in the past. We have one for pink eye. We would also have one for pneumonia, and then also a new one for our salmonella vaccine. Just goes through the front page, just goes through kind of the disease, clinical signs to look for, and then on the back side, it just talks about if you would want to create an autogenous vaccine for your operation, what we can do to help that and what the process is. The biggest thing with the autogenous vaccines is, they're not for everyone. Like Dr. Armon stated, you do have to have a valid BCPR with one of our Armor veterinarians in order to purchase this. We are able to work through your herd veterinarian to get them approved and then your operation approved, and then you would be able to purchase the vaccine from your herd veterinarian. So there is that option, but we just have to work closely with your operation, your herd vet, and then, if need be, to pull in our Armor veterinarians as well. All right, Katelyn, I think that was all I had, unless you had any other new questions come in.
I don't think so. We had one more question come in, but it looks like you answered it, Leslie. It was, does the vaccine need a booster, or is there a one-shot formulation available? So Emily, I hope your question was answered there by Leslie. Okay, so thank you, Leslie and Dr. Armon. That was all really great information. For those of you out there watching, if you have more questions or you're interested in one of our autogenous vaccines, please feel free to reach out to your Armor Animal Health rep, or just give us a call and someone would be more than happy to help you learn more or figure out how to implement these vaccines into your herd health program. We thank you for joining us today and hope you learned something new. Don't forget to share this with your friends. As a reminder, the video was recorded, so you'll be able to go back and view on your Facebook page or on the YouTube channel. If you're watching the recorded version, feel free to ask questions in the recommended or in the comments as well. We'll be sure to get back to you with any answers. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks on April 15th for the next Have You Heard. Dr. Kurt from BI and Leslie will be there discussing culturing doesn't have to be complicated. Thanks, everyone. Until next time.